Ray, the sea is full of mysteries and monsters, and we know so little about what lurks below the surface.
Is that why we're here on the shores of Casco Bay in Maine, Jeff? To look for monsters?
It is, Ray, and this monster has been sighted many times over the last 250 years. We're in search of Cassie the Sea Serpent. Hello, I'm Jeff Belanger.
And I'm Ray Auger, and on this week's New England Legends podcast, we're heading to the coast of Maine on the quest to find an infamous sea serpent. All right, Jeff, we all know the Jules Verne 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea story. It's full of giant creatures like monsters and serpents, but isn't that just stuff of fiction?
Jules Verne published the story in 1870. By that time, there had already been more than a century of reports of giant sea serpents in the newspapers from all over the world.
All right, but couldn't those be fishing stories? I mean, we all have that fishing buddy who tells you that he caught something huge, and each time he tells a story, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
That's always a challenge when studying any legend, but let me ask you something. Do you ever get nervous when you're in the ocean?
Well, I did see Jaws. And sure, you swim out beyond where you can stand, and you wonder what's down there.
Well, according to New Scientist magazine, about 233,000 species of ocean creatures have been discovered and documented.
Well, that's a lot.
It is. But it's estimated there are between 1 and 10 million more species in the water yet to be cataloged.
Well, I get that. The ocean's deep and we haven't seen most of it yet. But how do we make the leap to sea serpents on the coast of Maine?
The earliest documented account in this area comes in June of 1779. U.S. Navy ensign Edward Preble reported he encountered a strange creature in Penobscot Bay. Preble would go on to become a U.S. naval hero. He eventually retired a Commodore.
So this guy's no slouch.
Not at all. In June of 1779, Preble reports seeing this serpent, 100 feet long and thick as a barrel. His commander orders him into one of the longboats so he can get close enough to the creature and shoot it. Preble would later report he fired shots, but the animal swam off seemingly unharmed.
So one sighting, almost 240 years ago, gives birth to this legend people still talk about today?
Well, here's the thing, Ray. Though this is the first, it's not the last. This was reported in Penobscot Bay, but there would be many more sightings further south in Casco Bay near Portland, Maine.
Well, how many are we talking about here?
Okay, for example, on July 12, 1818, the creature shows up in Portland Harbor, drawing the attention of some witnesses on Weeks Wharf. In 1836, the schooner Fox reported a serpent near Mount Desert Rock, which is further north, and the sightings became so frequent that the creature earned a nickname, Cassie.
Does anyone have any reason to think that this creature is dangerous?
Well, there is one account I found. Give this article from the November 4th, 1895, Bangor Daily Whig and Courier a read.
All right, it says Captain J.A. Crossman of South Portland is the latest mariner to report an encounter with a sea serpent. He says the critter was apparently 75 to 80 feet long, had a roar like a lion, and an enormous head with wicked-looking eyes, which it raised 20 feet above the water. It also was possessed of a fighting disposition and made several attempts to stand on its head and strike the vessel with its tail. In fact, its demonstrations became so vigorous that Captain Crossman had everything in readiness to lower the boat should the aggressor succeed in his attempts.
The steamship Bonita saw Cassie in Casco Bay on August 20th, 1910. Passengers claimed it was 80 feet long and had spots on it.
Now, at this point, we're up to more than 130 years of sightings.
Yeah, these experiences are ongoing.
Now, are people claiming this is the same creature, meaning one elderly and giant monster?
From the eyewitness accounts, I think we need to assume this is some kind of elusive species. In some reports, the serpent is 100 feet long. In others, it's 80 feet and has spots. We're likely looking at a sea creature.
Now, has this creature stopped coming around?
Reports continue well into the 20th century. According to cryptozoologist Lauren Coleman's book, Field Guide to Lake Monsters, Sea Serpents, and Other Mystery Denizens of the Deep, on June 5th, 1958, Ole Mikkelsen, a fisherman from Portland with his partner, Irmar Hergard, set out to sea before dawn. They were about 5 miles off Cape Elizabeth and just over a mile south of Portland Lightship when they saw an object slithering toward them in the early morning haze. It lifted its head out of the water and observed the men. Mikkelsen estimated the creature was over 100 feet long. He claimed if it drew much closer, he intended to cut his fishing nets and race for Portland Lightship.
So what happened to the fishermen?
Well, they said the creature passed by to their south and dipped below the water. And though they never saw it again, they also never forgot this encounter.
Do you think Cassie is still out there somewhere? And if so, why haven't we seen her lately?
I do think Cassie, or rather Cassie species, is still out there somewhere. As the coast became more populated, locals would have fished the harbor, meaning there's a lot less potential food for a creature of that size to survive than just a century ago. It's going to move to where it can find food.
Now, why do you think so many people scoff at the idea of creatures like this existing in our waters? There have been so many documented accounts, and if you consider a blue whale can be over 80 feet long, it's not like a creature this size is unheard of.
I agree, but for some reason, science can become a belief system. If something doesn't fit into a person's worldview, they dismiss it.
Fake news.
Exactly, but there's a danger in doing that. You can't always count a species out.
You mean like a coelacanth?
Ray, you've been studying.
I'm not all good looks and charm, you know.
The coelacanth is one of cryptozoology's greatest stories. Please tell us about it.
The coelacanth is an ocean fish in a class of its own. These things grew to 5 or 6 feet in length and had 6 fins along the length of their bodies. 2 of them look like the start of hind legs, and 2 of those fins look like the start of front legs. Some scientists believe that a descendant of the coelacanth was one of the first fish to crawl out of the ocean and evolved into an amphibian, then reptile, dinosaurs, and so on. From the fossil record, scientists believe that the coelacanth went extinct about 65 million years ago. Until a fisherman in Cape Town, South Africa, caught one in 1938. A scientist walking by a fish market spotted the catch and started a scientific tizzy over the discovery. Over the years, more were caught and documented. Though it's considered a rare fish, it's certainly not extinct.
And a monster from the ancient past returns.
It's happened before. So what's the last word on Cassie the Sea Serpent, Jeff?
Well, we don't have all the answers when it comes to the creatures who share our planet with us. There's still so much that is unknown. The legend of Cassie reminds us that we still have a lot to learn and that maybe, just maybe, we're not the top of the food chain.
Tune in each week as we bring you a new legend from somewhere in New England. You can get involved in the legendary discussion of these topics on our website, ournewenglandlegends.com, and listen to all of our past episodes as well, all for free.
And do us a favor and post a review of New England Legends on iTunes. It's an easy way for you to help us spread the word.
Until next time, remember, the bizarre is closer than you think.